Welcome. Is there evidence for the resurrection of Jesus? Man, we don't ask the small questions here, do we?
No, man.
This is part of our series, Top Objections to Following Jesus. Kevin, welcome. What do you think?
Wow, this is excellent question. Perhaps the most important question that we need to ask is, did Jesus really rise from the dead? Or another way to put it is, if we were to go back in time, if there was a way to, and you took a camera and put it right in front of the tomb of Jesus, would you see the man, Jesus of Nazareth, walking out of that tomb?
Wow.
That is the question we're asking.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, and it's such a crucial question because even Paul says of himself in 1 Corinthians that if Jesus did not rise from the dead, then our faith is useless, futile, vain, and all of Christianity falls apart.
Exactly.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing that he would base his whole preaching on this one thing if it didn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. He was so confident that he said, we hedge all our bets on this one event. That Jesus physically, bodily rose from the dead and walked out of that tomb. Not just some spiritual idea of maybe he just like spiritually appeared to people.
These ghosts.
Some spiritual raising from, no, like physical.
Yeah.
That is what he did. And Paul makes it so clear that if he did not physically rise from the dead, then out of all men, we're the most pitied because everything is based on that fact.
Yeah.
That's
well, let's go and look at the evidence.
This is important.
Yeah. Will you take the first one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's talk about the eyewitnesses. I think that's a big one.
Yeah, crucial. So when it comes to studying ancient history, which is what we're doing, the time of Jesus, this is so significant because eyewitness accounts is the best plausible way that we can find out if anything happened for real or not historically when it comes to ancient history. And so if we look at the historical resurrection of Jesus, there is so much eyewitness testimony to it. Not only firstly with written records such as Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, historical eyewitness accounts of his life, including the resurrection stories, and also Paul and Acts written by Luke and others that didn't make it into the Bible. Now this is all written testimonies, eyewitness accounts of the resurrection story, but also besides that, of course, all the oral testimonies of people that saw the resurrection themselves and spread it, because obviously not everyone knew how to write. But it was such an important event that many did write about it, and we have those accounts.
It's so fascinating. Eyewitness accounts are so important, even today in a court of law. Like so much is stands on the testimony of an eyewitness. It can completely swing a case.
Right, because we didn't have cameras back then, and even today, if we had a video Jesus raising from the dead, no one would believe it. There's AI, there's other things and ways to falsify that. But eyewitness has always been the way to know if things really happened.
You mentioned that there were more eyewitnesses than just Paul and John,
Mark, Matthew, etc. Yes, for sure. And that's what makes it such a strong case. If you go to 1 Corinthians 15, this is written within 20 years max from the death of Jesus. And by this time, Paul is writing, the earliest Christian writer, and he states that the gospel has already spread like wildfire by this time, and it's everywhere. This message of the risen Jesus has already spread, and people have already believed in it and are hearing about it because of all these eyewitnesses that are sharing it publicly and proclaiming it. And so this is what we read in 1 Corinthians 15. Remember, only very close to the date of Jesus' death. He says, "For I delivered to you first of all that which I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he was seen by Cephas, then by the 12th. After that, he was seen by over 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain to the present, but some have fallen asleep. Meaning, people are still alive, he's saying. They are still alive, most of them. After that, he was seen by James and by all of the apostles, and last of all, he was also seen by me, as by one born out of due time.
Yeah. I mean, if this was just made up by a small group of people, they wouldn't go out preaching like, listen, go ask the guys. That's what he's saying. Like, man, there's many people that saw Jesus.
And he wasn't just making up a number. Well, over 500 people saw him. Because people were alive, and they would say, where are they then? Like, if they're still alive. But he's saying, no, look at those people right there. Go talk to them. Over 500 people who have seen it themselves.
That is an incredible good evidence for the resurrection of Jesus.
Yes, especially because they were still alive.
People could verify it.
Wow, and even in Acts 1:3, that we get more information about the eyewitnesses and their accounts, because it says, he also presented himself alive after his suffering by many infallible proofs, being seen by them during 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining to the kingdom of God. This is Luke writing, another writer, and he's stating that Jesus was seen by these eyewitnesses during 40 days. So this wasn't just one occurrence or a few times on the third day, but actually over a period of 40 days, he appeared multiple times to different groups of people, including over 500 people at once.
Eating with them, inviting them to, like, hey, feel my body. You know, I'm not a stories.
And
teaching them.
Even though, and he even says that he was teaching them. For it wasn't like he showed up, like a ghost, and then disappeared.
Like far on the hill.
Some trick, someone dresses up like Jesus, and hey, that's me, and then he disappears. Wow, everyone saw him. That's not what we're talking about. He communicated with them. He was with them. They talked to him, and they touched him, and many groups over a long period of time.
You mentioned one name as an eyewitness in 1 Corinthians 15. James. Paul's like, hey, go talk to James. James was so significant, and this brings me to the second piece of evidence is the enemies of Jesus converted. And James is one of them. He was actually the brother of Jesus. But before Jesus was crucified, he didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, the Son of God. And we read in John 7, verse 5, for even his own brothers did not believe in him. So, and I can, to a certain extent, understand it. If one of my siblings, all of a sudden start ministering, I'm the Son of God and stuff like that.
Even though maybe he saw the miracles, but he just couldn't reconcile. I grew up with him. How is he turning water into wine? Even though maybe he saw it, he just couldn't believe it.
So what is so huge about this conversion is that it happened after the crucifixion. That means that the evidence for the resurrection was stronger than anything else that James witnessed. It couldn't have been just, he witnessed Jesus, the resurrected Jesus himself, and he was convinced, and he became a follower of Jesus. More than that, he became a leader in the church.
The leader of the church in Jerusalem.
Teaching, writing letters, and you can read the letters of James in the New Testament.
Even in the New Testament. Oh man, that's incredible, because even thinking about how James, as a skeptic himself and who did not believe in Jesus, was his enemy of this. What are you doing, man? Saying you're the Messiah, the Son of God, so forth. Probably thought he was a lunatic, like we talked about in the last video. But then the evidence was so strong. It wasn't just he heard the idea of the resurrection, like, wow, that makes sense. I guess Jesus is the Son of God. He had the evidence, the clear appearing of Jesus in front of him. He saw him with his own eyes, says, okay, I can't deny it anymore. Wow.
I want to talk about Paul, though.
Paul as well, man.
Because that is on a different scale. So Paul was one of the main persecutors of the church. Like, he was a leader of the Jewish Sanhedrin, and he was there when Stephen was stoned. He basically gave the thumbs up for the stoning of Stephen,
the first martyr. So this is from the very beginning of the church.
Yeah, he's leading this movement of the persecution of the church.
This campaign against this sect that just sprung up out of nowhere because
and it's offensive. They make offensive claims. Jesus is the Son of God who rose from the dead,
right?
And he's persecuting them, killing them
because he's so zealous for Judaism. He's a Jew. Trying to eliminate them.
Yeah, he led a massive campaign in Jerusalem, literally breaking into the house of Christians, grabbing them from their homes, throwing them in prison, crazy stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Then he got a campaign signed off to go to Damascus. Yes, to go, grab the guys there.
Wow.
And on his way to Damascus,
everything changed.
Everything changed. Yes. He encounters the risen Jesus on the road to Damascus. Now you can imagine, this had to be something huge, something massive, because Paul's life completely not over, it's not something he considered over a period of time. No, from that moment, he completely flipped.
Night and day.
Night and day. To the point that he started leading the campaigns of spreading this news.
Wow.
So not leading the campaigns of persecution, taking these campaigns even further than Jerusalem.
Right. So it couldn't have been just, he was on his donkey and he had a dream, he fell asleep and he saw.
No.
That's impossible.
No, it was so radical and so quick, the conversion, that when he started going out preaching that Jesus has risen from the dead, people thought that it was a trick.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to lure them infiltrate or something. So that's how big and significant it was. And man, he completely took over his life, this ministry. He wrote almost half of the New Testament.
Wow. And even the things that he suffered for this message are unbelievable, thinking that he hated it at first. But when the undeniable evidence, when Jesus himself stood in front of him, he couldn't deny it, and his life was completely changed. He even writes later the things that he suffered. He says, "For whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and count them as rubbish," because he counts knowing Jesus, knowing the truth of who Jesus is, that he really rose from the dead, greater than all those things that he suffered because of it. He said it was worth it.
Yeah. And I want to look at the next one, because this is the most obvious one to debunk this whole movement as, just a lie, made up story. And that is the empty tomb.
Right. Yeah. And Jesus's body is missing from the tomb.
It's gone. Nobody can find it.
Right. Since the third day that he died, to this day, it's been over almost 2 millennia. To this day, no one has found any evidence of bones of Jesus, his body, or anything that would contradict the empty tomb story.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, because all the Gospels have this in them, this empty tomb story. On the third day of the week, the Mary Magdalene and some other women and some others show up, and the body is gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what we have to understand is that, they were a small group of people making this claim against basically the whole Roman Empire and the whole Jewish leadership. They didn't want this thing to spread.
Yeah.
So
from
all they had to do is protect this body, which they tried to do.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't even like, they failed to take precautions, and I guess they entered somehow into the tomb and stole his body and burned it, and so no one could find it, because the Jews actually warned the Romans, and they said, even the moment he was crucified, before they allowed him to be buried, he said, "Hey, can you put some soldiers, make sure no one goes near that body, because Jesus himself said he would rise from the dead on the third day." I know it's crazy, but we don't want his disciples going in there and stealing his body or something, which is what people think they did.
Yeah. So the empty tomb, the fact that the body is gone, is Incredible evidence.
Right, because how could they go against the whole empire of Rome to get a body out of that tomb?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Amazing. Okay, what about the fourth one? The transformation of the disciples from wimps to martyrs.
From wimps to martyrs. This is perhaps the most striking evidence, I think, on the resurrection of Jesus. If you look at the disciples' lives and even the accounts they themselves wrote and others wrote about them, they were incredibly just sorrowful and in grief of what happened with the crucifixion.
Yeah, they were defeated.
They felt so completely defeated, utterly helpless. They thought all our hopes were dashed in one night, because they thought this is the Messiah that's going to restore the kingdom to Israel, and all these things they had thought, and now he's dead.
They maybe saw Jesus, being on trial, and they thought at some point, like, this guy is just gonna just start shining or something, or when they put him on the cross, but no, he died. They were defeated.
They, until that last moment, maybe they believed, and the problem is they didn't understand what Jesus said about himself having to be raised from the dead. It was such a crazy thought. It didn't even register to them, to the disciples. They didn't understand at all. In fact, all of them gave up. And even Peter is like, hey, let's go back fishing. Anyone want to come with me? That is the situation we find the disciples in after Jesus died. It was not this idea of, well, let's try and make up a story to fix our situation. They were defeated and hopeless, hiding, fearful. And then everything changed. And the difference is Jesus showed up. Jesus alive, back from the dead. All of them saw him. Even Thomas, who said, I won't believe unless my eyes see him. And even if I see him, I won't believe until I touch him and put my fingers in the nail prints and the wound in his side. Jesus shows up, eats with them, and says, hey, Thomas, come and see. Come and put your hands in my side, into my wrists. And this is what he does. And all of them were transformed from that moment.
Transformed to the point where they were willing to die.
And that's key.
And the thing is, man, obviously they got such a conviction that, man, there is life after death.
And it was so strong, their certainty, because they saw Jesus raised. And he promises, whoever believes in me shall never perish, but have everlasting life and will be raised as well.
It's very important piece of information that they were willing to give their lives, that they were willing to die.
11 out of 12 of them.
11 out of 12.
Brutally murdered, tortured, crucified upside down, to give some examples, skinned alive, stoned to death, sawn in half, axed to death.
You know what? I've heard Muslims object to that. Or people say, like, Muslims are, they're all martyrs. There's so many Muslim martyrs. It's what makes them extremists. Like, what makes the disciples special?
Right, because one could argue, well, many people can die for what they believe in and for the ideology they strongly commit to. For example, Islamic extremists. Well, the difference there already is huge, because they're dying in order to kill more people.
There's a motive behind it.
It's a whole different thing, and it's incomparable to the situation we're talking about, which is they were forced to either recant what they believed in, or they would be executed. And they could have easily recanted the story that they made up. They knew it was false if they had.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
A Muslim extremist might sincerely believe what they're doing is the truth, but the disciples, they were witnesses. So they knew.
The story came from them. Either they knew that they made it up, or they knew that they had seen him and that it was true. And that's where it's way different.
And if they made it up, they wouldn't have died.
No one will die for something they know is false.
No one, but not even one. We're talking about 12. Just the ones who who wrote it down, all the 12 disciples, so many more, but nobody, changed their story.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing.
Wow.
And from them, many others also were willing to be martyred and executed with all the persecution that arose from that time, because they were convinced from the testimony of the eyewitnesses, like Paul, being publicly beheaded in Rome. I could see that and say, if he is willing to do that, and he's an eyewitness, then I trust that it's true.
Makes sense, yeah. Do you know what the swoon theory is?
Right, let's see some objections right to the resurrection, because some people say, well, somehow they believed that Jesus rose from the dead, but even though he didn't actually. One is the swoon theory. Yeah. Good question. First of all, swoon meaning like fainting almost. Yeah. So imagine Jesus crucified, and at some point he just blacks out.
Yeah.
And then they take him down the cross. They think he died, put him in a tomb, and then he wakes up later.
Yeah, man, it's such a bogus argument, because, man, nobody can survive a crucifixion. It wasn't meant for torture. Yeah. It was meant to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And the Romans were expert, man. Everything they do, they were experts at.
Yeah.
And it's not like in today where you're an executioner. Okay, people are not executioners today, but if you don't do your job well, you get like a first warning. Like, you're
probably crucified too.
Beheaded or something.
How can you fail to crucify someone?
Someone who's been convicted in, a court of law. Like, you have, it's one job. Yeah.
The ultimate penalty.
Yeah.
And this was the most serious one of all. Yeah. The worst way to die. The Romans were experts in crucifixion and executing people. This is totally impossible.
Man, it's impossible. But let's say Jesus survived somehow. Like, he's barely alive. Like, imagine him, like, how's he getting out of the tomb? There's soldiers, there's a big rock, like, sealed from the outside. Like,
and that's also something about the empty tomb we didn't even talk about, that the Romans were there.
Yeah.
They were guarding that. Even, the Jews, we did mention that.
Yeah, we did.
Anyways.
Yeah. Dude, what do you think about the hallucination theory?
Okay, hallucination. Another argument or objection.
Yeah.
They have this idea.
Yeah, because people say, if you lose a loved one, it has happened before. People who lose, somebody close to them, they miss them so much that they hallucinate that they see this person.
Wow, yeah, maybe they were in some state of extreme grief or some sort of sorrow that they could even see them in a hallucination. The problem with that, first of all, group hallucinations are virtually impossible. And all these accounts and stories of the resurrection appearances that we see everywhere are mostly all in group settings. So, and it's not just one. It's not just 5 people, but 12, 15, 50, 500 over multiple times, over 40 days. That is completely impossible.
And then you have these testimonies of Jesus is actually teaching.
Right.
He's eating fish with them, calling them to the shore to, hey, stop fishing, come.
Right.
And, he's saying, touch me. It's not a hallucination.
It's not a good theory, man.
Yeah. Bro, there's so much evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. And I want to recommend this book for anybody, man, who wants just to read more on this. Because I promise you, there's so much more. So get a copy of this book. But I just want to talk about one more piece of evidence in this video. And that is the rapid growth of the early church.
Wow.
Yeah, man, historians are so confused by this. They're trying to explain this in so many different ways other than the resurrection. But it is impossible to explain how this small group of followers of Jesus exploded so quickly, even to the point by the 4th century that the Roman Empire turned completely to a Christian empire.
And if you look at the message, it doesn't make sense if we were to say, well, it's just a really good message that people resonated with. That makes absolutely no sense. Because first of all, it went against all their cultural and traditions and the pagan religion of Rome and the gods of Greece and Judaism, or so people thought. And it went against everything they believed in and they stood for. And preaching a resurrected man was absurd, bizarre, just as it is today. When we say someone rose from the dead, people did not believe it unless there was a real evidence behind it that he really did rise from the dead.
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly. And the other thing is, if somebody made a religion up, they wouldn't make up a religion about a guy who was crucified
and tell people to worship him.
No, man. No, man, because crucifixion was reserved to humiliate people. It was
the worst of criminals.
The worst of criminals. Yes. If you were crucified, you were the scum of the earth. It was so opposite to the cultures of the day to imagine worshiping somebody who went through a death and a crucifixion.
Wow. And even Paul said, because you mentioned the phrase scum of the earth, Paul said, we are made as the scum of the earth, talking about the situation they were faced in persecution. And I think that's the biggest piece of this rapid growth of the movement. How could this happen in the midst of intense, brutal persecution where Christians are getting killed left and right just for their faith, tortured, murdered, put in prison? And so there was no incentive for people, hey, if you believe this, you'll get some benefits. And no, that's 4th century after the Roman Empire. But at this point, there was no reason for people to believe, and yet they chose and to face even the danger of their own life for this message.
Yeah, man. The Jewish leaders and the Romans, they wanted to stop this, to nip this thing in the bud. So they were throwing people in jail, stoning them, trying to kill them, but it just kept growing so much quicker than they could throw people in jail and kill them and so forth. And
because people knew it was real.
Because people knew it was real. And even more than that, if you were to become a follower of Jesus back then, your whole Jewish family would even reject you.
Right. Thus, you'd be kicked out of the synagogue, of the whole system of...
It wasn't an easy thing that was going to make your life easier when you follow this person. The only reason people came to believe it is because it was true.
Wow. That's so powerful.
Yeah. Wow, man. We looked at so many evidences. We looked at the eyewitnesses. We looked at the enemies of Jesus converted, the empty tomb and the missing body, the transformation of the disciples, and lastly, the rapid growth. What's the conclusion here?
Wow. Yeah, I think if you put all of those things together that we talked about and more that we couldn't cover in this video, all these things so clearly point to a real historical event, a bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ. And that's huge. That changes everything.
Changes everything.
And ultimately, if you think it's been 2,000 years, 2 millennia of people trying to disprove it, meticulously scrutinizing this claim, this miraculous claim that Jesus rose from the dead. And to this day, the evidence that they've tried to come up with against it is nothing. And there's this huge mountain of evidence that still, to this day, it stands. And it strongly supports that Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah, man. There's nothing that explains the evidence we see better than Jesus that rose from the grave. And I did a study, man. I looked at the evidence for the resurrection and the evidence against the resurrection. I did a thorough study, man. And the evidence is conclusive. Jesus rose from the dead.
Wow, he's alive.
Yes, man.
It's real. Man. It's true.
Yeah, man. But you know what? I have this follow-up question. And Jesus rose from the dead. But why did he die? And why did he rose from the dead? Was it just to prove his divinity? Or was there something else that we still need to look at?
Oh, man, there's so much. Why this matters to us. It's such a crucial question. It's the best question anyone could ask. And this is what we're going to talk about in the next video. We're so glad you joined us for this. And please join us on the next video. You might think, well, many people think, I know why Jesus died and why he rose from the dead, or I think I do. But really, it's so crucial for us to really look at this question and really understand it. So join us on our next video, the real reason Jesus was crucified.
Oh, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. See you soon.
See you soon.